Each one of us has a story. For some of us, we live our story very publicly. We share it with other people. But for some of us, we live our story in isolation, very private and very close to our hearts. So I don't know which one you are tonight, but I want to just encourage you to join us in Stories of Hope as our guest tonight shares their journey, what they have gone through, their struggles, and really what has given them strength and what has given them hope. Well, tonight I'm really excited to have Garry Studenski with us. Now, Garry is somebody that I've known for how many years? How many years have you and I known each other? 45 years. That's a long time. And the reason is Garry met my sister 45 years ago?
46 years ago.
46 years ago. So he has been my brother-in-law, and we have some really great history together, some laughs, big time laughs, but we've also had some hard times together. So tonight, I'm just wondering if you could introduce yourself to everybody and tell us a little bit about your family, besides me.
Well, I was born at a very young age, and that was a long time ago.
Are you going to tell us how old you are?
No,
Okay.
but I will tell you about my family. So I lived in Chilliwack, in
Chilliwack, BC?
British Columbia.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I was born and raised there.
Okay.
So this girl from Winnipeg came to visit her cousin, and at the youth group, I was kind of introduced to her, and we attended a family camp together. I was asking her certain questions about life, where she was going in that. She was younger, she was maybe 18,
Okay.
and I was a little bit more than that, 20, I think. And so I knew where I was going, and I wanted to know if she knew where she was going. And at that moment, or at that event, I knew in my heart this is going to be my wife.
Wow.
And the rest was kind of, it kind of came together. And we dated for maybe a year. We were, well, 1,200 miles apart, whatever, Winnipeg to Chilliwack.
Yeah.
So it was a long date.
Yep.
And I know one time some events came along, and I just knew in my heart. Then in 1975, we got married. And that's how long, well, I'd known you a little bit longer than that, because we were dating about a year before that.
Right.
And then we had 3 children, and the oldest is Jason. He's still available.
Oh. Take note.
Jennifer.
Take note, everybody. How old's Jay?
I'm not sure. My wife's not here, so I think 42 this year.
All right.
Jennifer is the next one, and she has 2 kids, so a boy and a girl. Danielle is 10. Chase is 7. No, 8.
Okay.
And then the third one is Jacqueline, and Jacqueline attends this church, and she has 2 boys, Braden and Zach, and their husbands. Jen's husband is Chad Hebert, and Jacqueline's husband is Kevin Boone.
Yep.
So we have a family. We have a healthy family, and the family values that my parents instilled in my life. We and Elaine's parents the same thing. So we both come from pretty good family valued parents and parenting. And so we did that with our family. Well, there were certain things that we said, well, we're not going to do that when we have kids and grow up. And
what are family values? Because those, like, what are yours? Because they probably mean something different to everybody.
Well, I think one of the biggest is respect for each other. And I think in a marriage relationship, respect for your spouse and to treat them with honor. And even with the children, church was a big thing. Commitment was a big thing, and I'll tell you a little more about commitment a little later on, but that was a big thing. And even when the girls started looking for a guy and dating and that, they had lists that they wrote out, and we're looking for this kind of guy, and both of them married really well. And
really well meaning that they have a relationship that has or encompasses trust,
Yeah, trust and respect for the
Respect.
spouse, and the other thing is there are church people, so that's important to me. Is that
Why? Why is church important? Why do you think church is important in a family? I'm just curious.
Church is important because that's where you learn it at home too, but you will learn how to live a clean life, like quote unquote clean. We didn't get into bad worldly stuff. I remember, it's kind of a funny thing, but when we moved to Winnipeg in '84, our kids started going to a Christian school, and we decided for a while we weren't going to movies, which kind of bizarre. Now the kids do go to movies and stuff like that, but that was just something that I wanted the kids to learn, that there is another side to life other than going to movies all the time and that kind of stuff. And honesty and just respect, that was big. And even going to commitment, I remember when the girls were dating, I says, if you're dating, you need to find a godly husband, and you want that in your family too. You want to know what background your in-laws are coming from, and you have to have your relationship, relationship with your in-laws is as important as your own mom and dad, because that's family. So now, rolling up really quick up to 2012, Elaine was starting to feel stressed, we thought, and so we went to the doctor, and our kids kind of pushed that, you need to take mom to the doctor. And so we went to the doctor, and she told the doctor, well, she felt stressed. So at that time, the doctor says, well, maybe you should quit working and even quit babysitting, which we said, no, we can't do that.
The grandkids.
The
right?
grandkids, yeah. The other kids were old enough to look after themselves. They weren't even home anymore. They were gone. They were out of the house. The first time the doctor did a test, it didn't feel right. She was supposed to do some exercises, and I'm watching her, I'm thinking like, uh-oh, this isn't good.
Like
And
what?
I didn't know what it was. Well,
Like
a
what
little sketch she draw. He drew a little square on a piece of paper with a triangle and parallelogram, and she was supposed to do the same thing on another piece of paper, and she couldn't do it. She was supposed to do, a familiar one is draw a circle, put the clock, the 1, 2, 12 on it,
Yes.
and then put the hands on it. It says it's 10 to 11.
Right.
And she failed at that. She couldn't
Okay.
get the numbers on there.
Okay.
And
And this
then-
is your physician that you're seeing?
Yes.
Okay.
And okay, well, when you come back, I'll send you to a psychologist, and we'll do some tests, some MRIs and CAT scans and different stuff. We came back, went to the psychologist, and he did the same tests and almost the same results. And at the end of the session, he says, well, I don't have very good news for you. You have early onset of Alzheimer's. You can't drive. And so we're walking out of that office, and Elaine's crying because now the doctor says, you can't drive. Okay, so reality hits.
Wow.
And then we went to that was a psychologist, and then we went to another doctor, and the same result came in. Well, it's going to get better, right? No, it doesn't get better. And even our family doctor says it's not going to get better. And here's some medication that might slow it down.
Right.
So she was on medication since 2012, and slowly her memory was disappearing.
Yeah.
And it was interesting when we came home and told the kids that. So, and then life happens. We lived in the city in Winnipeg, and we had a nice home, and the girls said, Dad, if Mom's got Alzheimer's, you should consider moving to Niverville. There's one of the best facilities there if Mom has to go into the Alzheimer's side.
Right.
And we weren't in Niverville more than maybe a year and 2 months, and we had to have a home visit by the local doctor.
Okay.
And she was already paneled to go to assisted living, and the doctor at the end of that visit says she can't go assisted living. She has to go full-time nursing.
Oh, wow.
So
What were you seeing? What were you seeing at home that kind of change? What were the things that were going on with you and her that would have been a sign to you, maybe looking back, that she needed to go into a home?
Well, lots of things. They all happened so slow. There was things like memory loss, so she couldn't do certain things like cleaning in the house, like putting the dishes away.
Yeah.
We go to the lake. I say, Elaine, get stuff ready. When I come home from work, I'll load the cooler in that, and then I get home, and the cooler will still stand beside the fridge. Nothing had been done. I says, well, the bigger change happened the 4 years that we were in Niverville. She couldn't do anything. She couldn't cook. And it got to the point where later on in life, which wasn't that long ago, but she couldn't even dress herself. And if I took her to church, or I had her in the vehicle for a trip into Winnipeg or that, there was no conversation with her.
Right.
It was getting less and less, and but there was still things that she knew. I would say to her Saturday, I go visit her and say, do you want to go to church tomorrow?
Right.
And she says yes. And I said, well, you want to go to the church that's downstairs? Because there was, in the community, there was 4 or 5 different groups that would come on a rotation. And she says, no, I want to go to my church. So she was very clear on that.
So she would come into the city.
Yeah.
Come here. Yeah.
We come into the city and she'd go to church, and she would enjoy, she would participate. I'd ask her questions after, and she couldn't remember what she heard and stuff like that. And then later on, it kind of got worse to the point where she couldn't feed herself. So on a Sunday, I would bring her to church.
Right.
We go to a restaurant. I'd, buy her stuff that she liked.
Right.
And she couldn't feed herself. And then so that changed. And then I take her straight back to the nursing home, and they did that. Yeah. And then that was maybe a year and a half ago. And then she couldn't dress herself. She did enjoy the family. And Christmas Eve last year in 2019, we do our Christmas stuff.
Yes.
So I said, Elaine, you want to come home for Christmas? Yes. So I took her home, and she still recognized the kids. I don't think she knew the names, the grandkids.
Yeah.
But she would hug them and stuff like that, and she'd come into the house, and she was happy. You could tell.
Yeah.
And she didn't talk, but you could tell that she loved being with the kids and the family. So Christmas was good, and then something switched after New Year's, and that went from bad to worse.
2020. This
2020.
year.
Yeah. And on the 8th or 9th, she was having like major meltdowns and stuff that I don't understand.
Yeah.
And she passed away on the 10th
Of January.
Yeah. But I remember a couple of days earlier, the nurse came up to me and she said, you better get ready. I says, for what? For a funeral? Yep. And so I phoned my girls, and I said, you guys better talk to your kids, because grandma might not make it much longer. And my son said, Jason said, no, Dad, I think Mom's going to be around for 2 or 3 more months.
Wow.
I said, I don't think so. And then I was second guessing myself. And so when I came back into Niverville, I went straight to the nursing home, and I said, explain this to me.
Yeah.
Do you mean a funeral and that? Yeah. And so that particular day, the next day I said to Jason, I says, we should go and check out some funeral homes and stuff like that. And okay, I'll do that. He wasn't going to work because the whole family was now in this mode of, we don't know if Mom's going to make it, how much longer and that. And so he came with me too. And on the way home, I said to him, I said, Jason, maybe you should come and visit Mom. So in the 3 years that she was in the home, he had a tough time. He didn't visit her. Yeah. Now I said, that's okay, but I don't want you to have any regrets if you don't come. The girls came often, and so there was even with the grandkids, they recognized, and I think they saw the deterioration in grandma and stuff. But when it started going down so fast, it was like 4 or 5 days, and then she was gone.
Yeah.
And so for us as a family, it's, she was 63,
which is very young, very young.
And we were, I brag about it, at her celebration of her life, we celebrated 44 and a half years together.
Right.
And so just a couple of weeks ago would have been 45th anniversary.
Yeah. Wow.
And that's a long time.
It's a long time.
And now going back to the commitment, let me just say this about commitment. My upbringing and just my conviction from the Bible and stuff like that is when you marry, it's till life or till death do us part. You go through everything. Mm-hmm. And so there was a couple times in this last 4 years. And so I told my children, I says, I want you to know that while Mom is still around, nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to happen. And that was part of our commitment. And I wanted the kids to see that. I want the grandkids to see that too. That's what our life is. That is what commitment is. For my family, I think, and maybe for me, it's power too, is for my kids, they have their own stuff that they go through. Yeah. But that they realize that even through the tough times, you still got that commitment, and that's who we are. I mean, we're people of faith, and that's part of our faith. That's big.
So, Garry, when you went through, like, I'm assuming that there were probably some really dark times that you went through. How did you cope with that?
Well, there was a couple times, and I'm not afraid to share. I'd be laying in bed. I'm alone. I've been alone for 4 years. And so you're going through that grief in different ways. Yeah. And there's a number of times when I came home and then I went to bed and I'm thinking, like, God, either you heal her 100% or take her home. And that was tough. Tough even to tell the kids that. Dad said, well, Dad, God, if you want to take her home, take her home. But that was power, I think, for me. And
is it power because you're feeling helpless in the situation that you're saying, Lord, like? Yeah,
but you also know, no matter what, God is with you. And even now, it's like I'm alone. I don't really have lonely nights or lonely days. There's thoughts that you think, well, what now, right? And we were going to travel. We were going to retire and travel. Well, now I travel with my son, and we've done a couple family traveling trips and stuff. So life still goes on. And where is life going to take me from now? I don't know. Life goes on, and I live for my kids, my grandkids now.
So what about that family? Let's say somebody is going through, like Elaine had Alzheimer's. She passed away at a young age. You still have a lot of life ahead of you. I think you do.
I think
so.
I do too.
You have life ahead of you. You're on this journey. You definitely have people that are, even though we all grieve differently, you have people in your life that support you. Your kids, your grandkids are there, part of your life. You have extended family, you have siblings that are amazing. And so my question is, what would you say to somebody maybe that's watching right now, that's listening to you, and maybe they're going through a struggle right now, where maybe it's something to do with their family member, where something has come into their life, cancer, Alzheimer's. I mean, we can name so many things that are out there. And what would you say to somebody that maybe is feeling like they're on the journey all on their own, and they don't have that support that I feel that you're sharing today, that you have, and that have helped? I mean, it's to some degree has helped you through the journey, because you weren't on it, even though you were the partner.
So for anybody going through, if it's not too late, I think the biggest thing is have friends, make friends. We were a type that we made friends. And if you have trouble making friends, make yourself friendly. Because even through some of the stuff while we were walking together, there was a time where Elaine was hospitalized and she went through some stuff. Friends pray with you, and they carry you. And there were times that we were going through dark stuff in that, but I knew that the prayer of the friends was carrying us. And I can't explain it. I'm thinking, like, Why am I not freaking out? Why am I not jumping off the bridge or jumping in the casket or whatever? Because you don't.
So what about somebody who's not a part of doesn't have that, doesn't have friends that have faith?
Get some. Get faith, get friends, because that is your strength. Faith, to me, that, like I said earlier, church is where you make friends, a lot of good friends, and that's where your support group is. If you have outside of church, I don't know what kind of support groups there are. They call themselves supporting, but they go a different way. But when we walked into church on Sunday here, I knew there was people that were watching us, they were supporting us. And a number came up to them just to say, hey, I appreciate what you're doing. I had one fellow come, he says, I'm having struggles in my marriage, but I'm watching you and how you treat your wife and stuff, and keep it up. And
so they would encourage you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking like, oh, okay. I didn't think I was that good of a, whatever you want to call it, person.
But you were encouraging other people, I think, in the journey too, because there are people that would have done what you said an associate had mentioned to you about, possibly just moving on because it might be easier. I don't know. But you definitely showed commitment to Elaine in the time that she was sick, but you also showed commitment to your family.
Yes.
Because really what you were doing in that relationship in the hard times, you were also showing your kids what it's like to live when you do go through a hard time. Because I don't care what anybody says. It's ebbs and flows, right? Like it kind of, we've got good times that we live through, and then there's tough times that we all go through. And those tough times, it's how we react towards those tough times. It's easy to throw in the towel, just whatever. We don't want to deal with this. And so it's easy to run. And it would have been easy for you to run. I'll be honest. It would have been easy in the sense that if you didn't have this sense of commitment, this sense of years of trust, respect that you and Elaine had developed between the two of you, it would have been easy without all of those things. And what you were really teaching your kids by example, it's easy to run away.
Well, what you just mentioned, I don't know if it would have been easy for me to do that, because you're what you've taught yourself, what you've read from good books, the Bible and stuff like that. I don't know if I could have done that.
So was it your faith? That's what I'm hearing. Is that your faith?
I think so,
was
because
the foundation?
I could not see myself running away. Not in that relationship. It was hard. I'd go to the seniors' home and I'm thinking like, this is not the girl I fell in love with. She's 40 pounds heavier. She's not talking to me. She's not feeding herself. I got to feed her. I have to come in on Saturday mornings and hang out her stuff that they will dress for her to go to church on Sunday. It's not the same person. And somebody said this to me recently. It's like, I loved her, but I wasn't in love with her at the end. And that's a tough, when you think of that, that does make sense, because that person is different. I look at pictures now. I sat down with my daughter once and she says, Dad, why do you bring me all this old junk? And we started looking at pictures, and you're starting to now replace what you saw in the last 4 years with what you had the first 40 years. Yeah. And so your mind doesn't play tricks on you anymore. You say, that's a person I married. Beautiful person, family orientated, dedicated to family, dedicated to her husband, and that was great. The last 4 years, they were not that great. They were tougher. But you can get through that, and you get through that with your own commitment, and you get through that with your friends.
Yeah, it's good. Garry, thanks for joining us. And
it's a pleasure.
Talking about your journey, which I know a little bit about, so I know it wasn't always easy, but I have to say that you've been an amazing man of integrity, I would say, if I was going to sum it up, in the years that you, especially these last 8 years that you've had with Elaine, where she was going through Alzheimer's, and the journey wasn't always easy. So thanks for sharing, and thank you for joining us tonight. And I want to encourage you that if you're going through a journey and you're feeling isolated or alone, there's a phone number on the screen, or you can contact us through the website. Feel free to do that. We would love to listen, and we'd love to do whatever we can to encourage you and just to bring you hope in the midst of whatever you're going through.
Thanks for listening.